Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to read the very first chapter of First Flight, and the chapter's name is A Letter to God. I know that you people are well acquainted from the chapter, as this is the very first chapter, and we have read in this particular chapter in the very beginning of the session. And this chapter is all about a farmer whose name is Lencho, and Lencho is a very, we can say, God-fearing person. And in the time of adversity, in the time of need, in the time of dire need, he needs the assistance of God, and that's why he writes a letter and he creates a hypothetical situation and we can see that his whole mindset goes beyond the limits of logical things and radical things, and he begins to write a letter when he was in great need. So, as you can see that on a distant classes, the writer is G.L. Frontis, and the story is set in somewhere in a foreign country, and there is a hill, and then there is the main protagonist, the main character of this chapter, Lencho. Lencho lives with his family on the hillside. He lives in a very small house, and at the beginning of the chapter, he is just staring at his farm, at his fields, and he was just imagining that how it would be that he would harvest his crops and he would sell them into the market, and he would earn sufficient amount of money for his living. But what happens after a point of time that the rain begins to start, and it was not a good sign for Lencho at all, because he was hoping for not rain, he was hoping for rain, but in a mild form. But the rain was quite heavy, and after some point of time, we see that the rain turns into hailstorm, and the hailstorms destroys all his crops very badly. It ruins his crops, it ruins his hopes, it ruins his dreams. But Lencho was made of some other kind of thing. He was having some other elements in him, and when he sees that all his hopes has been diminished, so he raises his hands to the Almighty, like we all do in the hour of need, and then he begins to think that what would happen, because all his crops have been ruined, and how would he run his family at that point of time. Then he thinks that God has sent all of us to this world, and only God can solve his problem. It was not in the hands of any person or people, that only God is there who can help him to run his family for the entire year. So he begins to write a letter, and he asks God for some help, for some financial help. He asks for a definite amount of money. He asks for 100 pesos, and he tells God that you should send this money through the post office so that I could get the money in my hand. And what happens after that? The proceedings goes on, and as we see that you can see all these animations on your digital screen, that how his rain is getting destroyed and how he's become very much disappointed. So we'll see how the things goes on. Now, at this point of time, he just goes to the post office and he just writes the letter and posts it in the required format. Then what happens next? That he doesn't write anything on the envelope. He just writes his name, his sender's name, and he just writes to God. So when it eventually reaches to the post office officials, they become very much surprised that who is that person who is writing a letter to God, because they have never seen anything like that happen earlier in their career. So it was not their code of conduct. So they just go beyond their code of conduct, and they begin to tear the envelope. They were very much curious that they want to know that what was inside the envelope, who has written that sort of a letter. And when they get the letter in their hand, especially the postmaster, the headman of the post office, and he begins to realize that this must have been the act of a very needy person. Only a needy person can lose his senses up to that extent that he begin to write a letter to God. So they come to know that Lencho is a farmer and Lencho is the person who has written the letter and who is in direct need of money, who needs 100 pesos. So what they do after that, he decides to just help him out, and he just takes a meeting of all the staffs of post office, and they begin to collect some money. He begins to raise some funds for the sake of Lancho, but somehow they managed to just raise 75 pesos only. It was 25 pesos short from the required amount, but just out of genuinity, just out of humanity, what they do, they just collected all the money and they just put it in the envelope and they write a letter on the behalf of God, just to make sure that Lancho should not shake his faith in God. And so the faith of Lancho should intact. And what happens next? That at the end of the story we see that when Lancho eventually gets his letter and he sees that he has got just 75 pesos and it was 75 pesos short from the required money of 100 pesos. He began to just scold the post office officials that they must have been a bunch of crooks. He says them a bunch of crooks, that they must have been not honest enough, and only God can send that much money to him, and God will never send him the 75 pesos. God will send the entire money to him, and it is the post office officials who have stolen the money. So what we see, that they were doing good to him, but he was thinking something absurd about them. And at this point of time, the story ends, and we realize that to have faith in God is a very good thing. But to get everything out of proportion, or to go beyond lengths, so that our faith, to show that we are very much need, it is not radical and it is not logical to go beyond that length, that we begin to write a letter to God. Okay, so I hope you people have understand the chapter so far. Now we will begin. and he needed God's help. He wanted to taste God's powers. His family asked him to. Only three options are. So which option is correct? So his crops were destroyed and he needed God's help. So should we go for it? Okay, just take it. Just check it whether this is the right answer or not. Answer is correct. So the next question. The following Sunday, Lenju came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. How did Lenju react? The following Sunday, Lenju came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. He was just waiting for the letter to come. And eventually when he comes and he gets the letter, how did Lenju react? He was grateful. He was surprised, he was angry, he was sad. When he gets the letter, what was his reaction? He was sad, he was angry. When he opens the letter and gets to know that he has got just 75 pesos, whether he was happy, whether he was angry, whether he was sad, what was his reaction? He was angry at the post office officials. Because he thought that they are the people who had stolen his money, who has taken out the money. Because God cannot do this type of thing. God must have sent him 100 pesos. And only the post office officials have taken out the money. Okay? So, the next one. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers wrapped in a curtain of rain. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen coins. Why did Lenju say that the rain was like coins? He just compares the raindrops to that of the new silver coins. So he was giving a poetic description. He was thinking of the money his harvest would bring in. He thought the rains were a gift from God. He believed he would prosper from the rain he collected. What is the answer? He begins to compare the raindrops to that of silver coins. Why does it does so? What was the reason? See, he thought the rains were a gift from God, or whether he was thinking of the money his harvest would bring him. Because the crop, a good crop, is like a heap of money for the farmer. It just replicates the money that he is going to have after selling the crop. So what is the reason? What will be the answer? It's between B and D. What is the answer? Between B and D. What is the answer? B? Okay, we'll go for B and we'll check it. This is the correct one. So, like this, you'll get this is the quiz section, and the quiz is based entirely on the text. So, I suppose that you people, this is a kind of revision for you, and I suppose that you have got the lesson in your mind. This lesson is in your system right now, and you know all the answers. You have been very good. So, I think that now the time has come to conclude this chapter. Okay? Thanks.